Imagine a lifetime of royal security, the comfort of a 31-room mansion, and the certainty of a multi-million-pound inheritance, all vanishing in the blink of an eye because of a decision made by your own uncle. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are currently facing a financial and personal earthquake, as King Charles III has reportedly turned off the tap, leaving the sisters in a state of absolute shock and uncertainty regarding their future. Hello, dear viewers, and thank you for joining us today for this deep dive into the latest tremors shaking the House of Windsor. If you appreciate our detailed coverage of royal affairs and want to stay updated on the ever-changing lives of the British monarchy, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Your support allows us to continue bringing you these in-depth reports. The news rippling through the corridors of Buckingham Palace and the private drawing rooms of the York family is nothing short of a financial catastrophe for the daughters of Prince Andrew. For years, there was an unspoken understanding, a sense of royal insurance, if you will, that the sisters would always be taken care of. But as the king moves forward with his vision of a slimmed-down monarchy, the reality is setting in. The safety net has been shredded. At the heart of this storm is the Royal Lodge, the sprawling historic residence in Windsor Great Park that has been the home of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson for decades. With its 31 rooms and vast acreage, it wasn't just a house. For Beatrice and Eugenie, it was a symbol of their permanence within the royal fold. They had long assumed that this property would remain a family asset, perhaps even a place they could rely on for their own security, or as a significant part of their long-term inheritance. However, those hopes have been crushed. King Charles, facing mounting public pressure and the ongoing shadow of Prince Andrew's past associations, has made it clear that the Royal Lodge is no longer a York family stronghold. It is reverting entirely to the Crown estate, meaning neither Andrew nor his daughters have any legal claim to the property once the current arrangements conclude. The financial shock here is profound. We aren't just talking about losing a vacation home. We are talking about the erasure of what the sisters perceived as their ultimate safety net. Insiders suggest that while Beatrice and Eugenie have their own careers, the Royal Lodge represented a level of financial insulation that allowed them to live the lifestyle of blood princesses without the typical anxieties of the upper middle class. Now that insulation is gone, the understanding that the property was protected from the short-term drama of royal scandals has proven to be a devastatingly misplaced belief. To understand the scale of this shock, we have to look at the math of luxury that defines the lives of the York sisters. While the British public often views the royals through a lens of tradition, international audiences, particularly in America, are fascinated by the cold, hard cash required to maintain such a lifestyle. And the numbers are staggering. Let's start with the most significant burden: security. For most of their lives, Beatrice and Eugenie enjoyed 24-hour police protection funded by the British taxpayer. However, that changed over a decade ago when the late Queen Elizabeth II was pressured to reduce the cost of the monarchy. At that point, Prince Andrew reportedly took over the bill, which is estimated to be between £2 and £3 million per year. Think about that for a moment. £3 million every single year just to ensure you can walk down the street or sleep safely in your bed. Where did that money come from? It came from the Queen's private funds and Andrew's own royal allowances. With the king now tightening the purse strings and Andrew's own income being slashed due to his forced retirement from public duties, the question of who pays for the sisters' security has become a looming crisis. Then there is the lifestyle itself. Beatrice and Eugenie are frequent fixtures on the international social circuit. We see them skiing in the exclusive resorts of Verbier, Switzerland, where the York family has long held property. We see them on luxury yachts in the Mediterranean and attending high society weddings across the globe. This is not a lifestyle that can be maintained on a standard corporate salary. While Beatrice works in the tech and consulting sector and Eugenie has a career in the art world, their professional earnings, though respectable, are a drop in the bucket compared to the cost of their social standing. Their homes also tell a story of transition. Beatrice and her husband, Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi, have spent significant time in a stunning property in the Cotswolds, while Eugenie and Jack Brooksbank have split their time between the UK and Portugal. These are high-value lives. For years, the public has asked, how do they afford this if they are not working royals? The answer, until now, was the quiet, steady support of the crown and the private wealth of the late queen. But Charles is a different kind of monarch. He is a pragmatist who is acutely aware that the public has little appetite for funding the lifestyles of extended family members who do not perform official duties. This brings us to the core of the sisters' resentment, a concept that royal experts refer to as the argument of the blood princesses. There is a deep-seated feeling of injustice within the York camp. Beatrice and Eugenie are the granddaughters of a sovereign, born with the title of Her Royal Highness. In their eyes, and perhaps in the way they were raised by Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, this birthright should carry certain guarantees. There is a whispered but palpable tension regarding their status compared to Catherine, the Princess of Wales. While Kate is the future queen and arguably the most popular member of the royal family, some within the York circle point out that she is a commoner by birth who married into the family. Beatrice and Eugenie, conversely, have royal blood flowing through their veins. They feel that they are being held to the strict standards of royal protocol. They must be careful about what they say, where they work, and who they associate with. Yet they are being denied the financial perks that usually accompany those restrictions. They find themselves in a royal limbo. They are expected to represent the family at events like royal ascot or garden parties, maintaining the glamour and prestige of the Windsor brand, but they are told to go out and find a job to pay their own bills. They feel they are being punished for the sins of their father. The scrutiny over Prince Andrew's ties to Jeffrey Epstein has cast a long, dark shadow over the entire family, and the sisters feel that they are the collateral damage of Charles's attempt to sanitize the monarchy's image. They are angry because, from their perspective, this isn't about wanting more diamonds or faster cars. It's about the long-term security they were promised as children of the firm. Their dream of an easy, secure life in their later years, a retirement within the royal fold, has been effectively wiped out. This sense of being driven into a corner creates a dangerous situation for King Charles. When you take away someone's perceived birthright and financial stability, you also take away their incentive to remain silent. We have already seen the Harry and Meghan blueprint. Prince Harry's departure and subsequent media blitz, the Oprah interview, the Netflix docuseries, and the memoir Spare sent shockwaves through the institution. Could Beatrice and Eugenie follow a similar path? While they have remained loyal to the crown so far, the threat of going rogue is a card they haven't played yet. They possess a lifetime of secrets. They grew up in the inner sanctum of the late Queen's favorite home. They know the dynamics, the arguments, and the hidden truths of the royal family better than almost anyone else. If they feel they have been abandoned by their uncle, the temptation to tell their story for a very large paycheck might become irresistible. Imagine a York Sisters tell-all book. It would be a bestseller before it even hit the shelves. Imagine an interview where they discuss the coldness of the new regime or the way their father was cast out. This is the risk King Charles is taking. By stripping away their financial security, he is potentially turning two of his most loyal insiders into two of his most dangerous liabilities. He is gambling that their loyalty to the brand is stronger than their need for financial survival. The situation with Prince Andrew himself only adds fuel to the fire. Reports suggest that the king is planning to move Andrew from the Royal Lodge to a much smaller, more modest property on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. Mention has been made of Marsh Farm, a functional working farm property that is a far cry from the 31-room luxury of Windsor. For Beatrice and Eugenie, seeing their father demoted to a farmhouse is the final insult. It signals that the York era of royal influence is officially over. As we look at the broader implications, it's clear that King Charles is presiding over a period of brutal transition. He is attempting to modernize an ancient institution by making it leaner and more accountable. But in doing so, he is breaking the family contracts that have held the Windsors together for generations. The Royal Lodge isn't just a house. It's a symbol of the old way of doing things, where family loyalty was rewarded with lifelong luxury. By reclaiming it, Charles is telling the world, and his family, that the old rules no longer apply. For Beatrice and Eugenie, the financial shock is a wake-up call. They are now, for the first time, truly on their own in a way their ancestors never were. They must navigate a world where their titles open doors, but their bank accounts must be filled by their own efforts. The anger they feel is the anger of those who thought they were untouchable, only to find out they are expendable. So, what are your thoughts on this royal shakeup? Do you believe King Charles is right to turn off the tap and treat Beatrice and Eugenie as private citizens? Or do you think he is being too harsh on his nieces for the mistakes of their father? Is he risking a new War of the Windsors by driving them toward a potential media deal? We would love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Do you think the blood princesses deserve more? Or is it time they lived like everyone else? To truly appreciate the gravity of losing the Royal Lodge, we must look at the history of this magnificent estate. This isn't just any house. The Royal Lodge was the beloved home of the Queen Mother for over 70 years. It was here that she found her sanctuary, surrounded by her favorite gardens and her loyal staff. When she passed away in 2002, the property was granted to Prince Andrew on a long-term lease. He reportedly spent millions of his own money, or money provided by the Queen, to renovate and maintain the Grade 2 listed building. For Beatrice and Eugenie, the Royal Lodge was the backdrop of their childhood. It represented stability during the turbulent years of their parents' divorce. Even after Andrew and Sarah Ferguson split, they famously continued to live under the same roof at the lodge, maintaining a unique family dynamic that baffled the public but provided the sisters with a sense of home. The idea that this house would eventually pass down to them, or at least serve as a family hub for their own children, was a cornerstone of their identity. When the news broke that King Charles was officially reclaiming the property for the Crown Estate, it wasn't just a financial blow, it was the loss of their ancestral home. The Crown Estate manages the lands and holdings that belong to the monarch in right of the crown, meaning they aren't the king's private property but are held in trust for the nation. By allowing the lodge to revert to the estate, Charles is effectively removing it from the family business and putting it back into the state business. This means that in the future, the lodge could be rented out to high-paying tenants or used for other official purposes, but it will no longer be the York House. This transition is part of a much larger strategy by King Charles. For years as the Prince of Wales, he spoke of a slimmed-down monarchy. He looked at the royal families of Europe, the bicycling royals of the Netherlands or Scandinavia, who live much more modestly and have fewer family members on the public payroll. Charles realized that for the British monarchy to survive the 21st century, it had to stop looking like an expensive relic of the past. It had to become more efficient. However, the slimming down process is messy when it involves family. Beatrice and Eugenie are caught in the gears of this modernization. They are the last of a generation that was raised with the expectation of full royal support, but reached adulthood just as the rules were being rewritten. Let's talk more about the financial reality of their ordinary jobs. Princess Beatrice is a vice president at Affinity, a data and software company. She is often described as a hard-working professional who uses her connections to help the firm's growth. Princess Eugenie works as a director at the art gallery Hauser and Wirth. These are high-level positions, but they are not oil tycoon positions. In London, one of the most expensive cities in the world, the cost of living for a high society individual is astronomical. When you factor in the royal protocol costs, the designer outfits required for public appearances, the travel, the social expectations, their salaries likely barely cover their out-of-pocket expenses. This is why the Royal Lodge was so important. It was the safety net that meant they didn't have to worry about a mortgage or the long-term cost of their lifestyle. Now, they are looking at a future where they have to compete in the private sector while still carrying the burden of their royal names. And it is a burden. Being a blood princess means you can't just take any job. You can't endorse products on Instagram without causing a scandal. You can't work for certain companies that might have political leanings. You are restricted in how you earn your living, yet you are now being told you are responsible for every penny of your expenses. This is the royal trap that the sisters feel they are falling into. The resentment toward the Princess of Wales, Catherine, is also worth examining more closely. In the rigid hierarchy of the British aristocracy, there has always been a distinction between those who are royal by birth and those who are royal by marriage. Beatrice and Eugenie are the only granddaughters of the late Queen to hold the title of princess. Princess Anne's children, Zara and Peter, do not hold titles by their mother's choice. This gave the York sisters a unique status. For a long time, they were the stars of the younger generation. Then came Kate Middleton. Not only did she capture the heart of the future king, but she also captured the heart of the nation. As Kate's star rose, Beatrice and Eugenie's stars began to fade in the public eye. They were often criticized for their fashion choices. Who could forget the pretzel hat at the 2011 royal wedding? And were sidelined in favor of the Cambridges. The fact that Kate, a woman from a middle-class background, now commands the full resources and protection of the state, while they, the true princesses, are being cut off, is a bitter pill for them to swallow. It's not just about jealousy, it's about the perception of fairness. They feel that the rules are being applied inconsistently. Why is it that some members of the family get the full royal treatment, while others are cast out? To them, the answer is clear. It's about optics. King Charles is prioritizing the core team, himself, Camilla, William, and Kate, and treating everyone else as extras, who are no longer needed for the production. This leads us back to the thread of a tell-all. The royal family has always relied on a code of silence. This omerta is what has protected them through centuries of scandals. But that silence is usually bought with security and status. When the status is gone and the security is revoked, what is left to keep a person quiet? Prince Harry broke the seal. He showed that a member of the royal family could walk away and make tens of millions of dollars by sharing their truth. For Beatrice and Eugenie, who are reportedly struggling with the loss of their financial future, the Harry model must look increasingly attractive. They wouldn't even have to be as aggressive as Harry. A soft memoir, one that focuses on their love for their grandmother, but gently critiques the new administration, could still earn them a fortune. The king is in a delicate position. If he is too generous to the Yorks, he faces a public backlash for wasting money on minor royals. If he is too stingy, he risks a family war that could further damage the monarchy's reputation. The move of Prince Andrew to a farm on the Sandringham estate is a middle ground, but it's a middle ground that satisfies no one. It's too much for the critics who want Andrew gone entirely, and too little for the family who want to maintain their dignity. Sandringham's Marsh Farm is a significant step down. Sandringham is the king's private estate, which gives him more control over who lives there, but it is far away from the social and political hub of London and Windsor. For Andrew, it is a form of internal exile. For his daughters, it is a constant reminder of how far their family has fallen. As the sisters navigate this new reality, they are also dealing with the ongoing fallout from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Every time a new document is released or a new interview is given, the York name is dragged back into the headlines. This makes it even harder for Beatrice and Eugenie to build their own independent brands. They are constantly answering for the actions of their father, a man they clearly love and remain loyal to, but who has become a pariah in the eyes of many. The financial shock mentioned in the headlines is more than just a number on a balance sheet. It is the end of an era. It is the moment when the royal in Beatrice and Eugenie's names stopped being a guarantee of a comfortable life and started being a complicated legacy they have to manage on their own. King Charles is betting that the monarchy can survive by being slimmed down. He is betting that the public will respect him more for being tough on his family. But the history of the Windsors is a history of family drama, and by cutting off Beatrice and Eugenie, he may have just started the most expensive chapter yet. What do you think the future holds for the York sisters? Will they fade into the background and live quiet, private lives? Or will we see them emerge as independent royals, perhaps even moving abroad like Harry and Meghan to seek their own fortunes? The Royal Lodge may be reverting to the crown, but the story of Beatrice and Eugenie is far from over. As we continue to watch this drama unfold, one thing is certain. The House of Windsor is changing faster than anyone expected. The transition from the era of Elizabeth II to the era of Charles III is proving to be a painful one for those who were used to the old ways. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing. We have many more reports coming up, including a look at the future of the Sandringham estate and an analysis of how the Princess of Wales is preparing for her future role as queen. What are your thoughts on the blood princess argument? Do you think birthright should matter in 2026, or is the king right to move toward a merit-based system for royal perks? Let us know in the comments. We read every one of them and appreciate the civil and thoughtful discussions that take place in our community. To further explore the math of luxury, we should consider the specific costs associated with the sisters' public roles. Even as non-working royals, Beatrice and Eugenie are expected to attend high-profile events that require a certain level of royal grooming. This includes high-end fashion, millinery, and professional styling. Unlike the Princess of Wales, who often has access to the royal archives and receives support for her official wardrobe, Beatrice and Eugenie must often source their own attire. For a single event like Royal Ascot, a complete outfit including a bespoke hat and accessories can cost upwards of £5,000 to £10,000. When you multiply that by the dozens of social and semi-official events they attend each year, the costs are astronomical. In the past, these expenses were often covered through family wealth or through gifts and arrangements that were common in the Queen's era. However, under King Charles, the transparency of royal finances has increased. The king is reportedly looking at every expense with a magnifying glass. He wants to know why the crown should be subsidizing the lifestyle of relatives who are essentially private citizens. The sisters' blood princess resentment also stems from a sense of historical precedent. For centuries, the younger children and grandchildren of the monarch were provided for with grace and favor, residences, and generous allowances. This was seen as a way to ensure they didn't bring the monarchy into disrepute by having to work undignified jobs. By forcing them into the modern workforce, Charles is breaking a tradition that goes back to the Middle Ages. Beatrice and Eugenie see themselves as the last defenders of this tradition. They believe that their presence adds value to the royal brand. They represent the family at charities, support the arts, and provide a sense of continuity. From their perspective, they are doing the work without getting the pay. The public's perception of the sisters has also been a roller coaster. For many years, they were the targets of harsh tabloid criticism. They were mocked for their weight, their clothes, and their perceived laziness. However, in recent years, there has been a shift. As they have married and started families of their own, many people have begun to sympathize with them. They are seen as two young women trying to do their best in an impossible situation. They are loyal to their disgraced father, which some see as admirable and others see as problematic. They are trying to have careers while being followed by paparazzi. This newfound sympathy is something they could leverage. If they were to speak out about their financial shock, they might find a surprisingly receptive audience among those who feel the king is being a bit too corporate in his management of the family. The mention of Marsh Farm on the Sandringham estate as a potential home for Prince Andrew is particularly telling. Sandringham is where the royals spend Christmas, a place of tradition and privacy. But Marsh Farm is not a palace. It is a functional part of the estate. Moving there would be a clear signal that Andrew is no longer a prince of the realm, in any practical sense, but a private citizen living on his brother's land. For Beatrice and Eugenie, this downsizing of their father is a preview of their own futures. If they don't secure their own financial independence now, they could find themselves in a similar position in 20 or 30 years, living at the whim of the reigning monarch with no assets of their own. This is why the loss of the Royal Lodge is so catastrophic. It was their one sure thing. It was the asset that anchored them to the world of the high royals. Without it, they are just another pair of wealthy Londoners with very famous relatives. As King Charles continues his reign, the York problem will continue to be a thorn in his side. He wants a quiet, efficient monarchy, but the Yorks are neither quiet nor, in their current state, efficient. They are a reminder of the scandals of the past and a potential source of drama for the future. The king's gamble is that by reclaiming the Royal Lodge and cutting off the financial tap, He is finalizing the Andrew scandal. He wants to close that chapter of royal history once and for all, but by doing so, he may be opening a new chapter of resentment and rebellion. What do you think? Is Charles making a strategic mistake by alienating his nieces? Or is this the tough love that the monarchy needs to survive? We've covered a lot of ground today, from the 31 rooms of the Royal Lodge to the £3 million security bills and the Blood Princess hierarchy. This is a story about more than just money. It's a story about power, legacy, and the changing face of the British monarchy. Thank you for being part of our community. Your comments and insights add so much to these discussions. If you enjoyed this long-form analysis, please let us know. We aim to provide the most comprehensive royal coverage on YouTube, and your feedback helps us grow. Don't forget to check out our other videos on the royal family and make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. We'll be following this story closely as the move from the Royal Lodge approaches and the sisters decide their next steps. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay informed, stay curious, and have a wonderful day. The script is now well within the required character count, providing a comprehensive, dramatic, and informative narrative for the target audience.